Hello and welcome to our video about Saturn in Aquarius. So what we're going to be covering is looking at the transit of Saturn in Aquarius. So we're going to start off by looking at the entrance of Saturn into Aquarius, which was in January. I think it was January 27th, January something, 2020. And so basically it goes in, it goes out. There's a retrograde at the beginning, and then we've had it consistently. Saturn has consistently been in Aquarius. And basically, what I'm wanting to do is to have a moment to recognize what all we have gone through with that transit and kind of taking stock, because first of all, Saturn likes that. Saturn likes when we can recognize what the instruction was, how we initiated and completed and put forth effort into the project of whatever it was for you. And that's going to be determined by what house that Aquarius is in for you. Whatever house Aquarius is in for you, there was like some specific focal point of what you needed to focus on, like focused work into innovating, changing, because Aquarius, being a planetary co-respondent with Uranus, and also in the I think it's Hellenistic astrology, Saturn is also co-respondent with Aquarius, and I will tell you the reason why that does make sense to me. And that's because Saturn is like winter. It's an ending. It's a cold, dark type of energy. It is actually a cold energy, similar to when if your knees get cold and you get like achy knees, or your back or whatever, your joints get cold. That's a real thing because there's synovial fluid in the joints that's supposed to be warm and juicy and lubricated and keep you flexible and moving and like chipper. So when that fluid gets cold, it kind of solidifies and it creates this contraction. So with that contraction, there's like less mobility and there's some pain and, just moving. It's kind of like when somebody has a cold synovial fluid in their joints and they kind of walk like an old person and they're like cranking along. So Saturn also has a lot to do with our skeletal structure. It has a lot to do with the structure and form of our lives. And the reason it co-responds with Aquarius, because Aquarius actually falls in the dead of winter. Okay, so they call this a co-rulership. I don't use the terminology of rulerships in astrology. I say co-respondents, like they co-respond, they respond together. So Capricorn, also in winter, is a co-responding planet with Saturn. And then Aquarius, so with Capricorn, it's more of time. It's like the contractual energy of Capricorn has us confined, restricted in time. Like if you have 1 hour to meet up with the love of your life, the hour is so short. It seems like an eternity. So Saturn is that function. And when we get to Aquarius and the co-responding planetary force that co-responds with Aquarius, now it's more like space. So there is more of looking forward, looking into the future, wanting to have new possibilities. And there's more of an expansive openness with the co-responding energy between Saturn and Aquarius. So as we've gone through this transit of Saturn in Aquarius, we've had more of that instead of the Capricorn constructual, rigidity. There has been still, because it's Saturn, there is some rigidity, but it's more like future oriented, goal oriented. What else is possible? What else can we do? And I'm inspired to give you an example from my life. Saturn went into my 10th house in 2020, reorganizing the way I do my work. And so there is this, while it is still Saturn, it still sucks in a way because it still brings this like heavy, dark, cold energy to the area. So, whatever house that was for you, it still brings this like big, heavy burden kind of feeling. It is in the sense of what else is possible? What else can you do? What else is out there? What other language can you speak? What other group can you reach out to? So there is a futuristic, freedom-loving type of energy when Saturn is in Aquarius. So, and also whatever house you have Aquarius in, this area of your life is already more like that, future oriented, goal oriented. What else is possible? What else is out there? Always wanting to learn more things that are really far out. So, with Saturn coming into that area, it brings this like, while you have this, like, okay, what else is possible? There's also this heavy hand. I don't know if it came from a song, but the heavy hand of the law that comes down. It's like, okay, you have this, like, what else is possible? Well, you need to get to work on it. There's all these steps that you need to do to find out. You want to find out what else is possible? Okay, well, grab your research paper, grab your, whatever 10,000 piles of books that you have, and you better get what do they say? The due diligence. You better do the due diligence where you're going through every single thing. There's a lot of work involved. So the transit is meant to like put a stop on you. So going back to my example, I had been doing massage very successfully for years and years. And I mean, I never answered my phone call. I had online booking. I was constantly booked up, and I was making a lot of money. I know a lot of people who work as massage therapists are like, "Oh my gosh, the money is so bad." I'm like, I don't know about you. Like, why is that for you? Because for me, it was always so plentiful. So when Saturn went into that 10th house, of the 10th house has to do with contribution to the world, public persona, your career, how people who don't really know you, how they see you, what they think about you, how they see you more so. So when that comes in, it's like, okay, something needs to change. What else is possible? How else can I be working? But it's also kind of like a real heavy charts that I've read. Saturn, whatever house it was in, definitely I could, they didn't even have to tell me, "Oh, I'm having money problems." "Oh, you must be a Capricorn rising." Because Saturn's in the second house. I already know, because it puts a stop on the flow of energy wherever it touches. It puts a stop on it, not to just stop it, but to make, especially in Aquarius, to make you have to innovate and discover what else is possible. So, what I would like for you to do is look at, if you don't already know, probably you already know, look at your chart and find out what house Aquarius is for you. And then just look at all those degrees between 0 and 29 and see what planets that you have in that house. Because as Saturn was transiting through those degree points, and there was some retrogrades in there, there was also Saturn Sun conjunction that happened in think that was 2021. I can't remember, but we did have another Saturn Sun conjunction, which basically well, we're getting into that. I'm going to talk about the one we have upcoming because this one is so important because we won't have another one actually on Thursday. Sun and Saturn come together at the same degree, 27 degrees of Aquarius, and they will not do that again for another 30 years. So, ooh, okay. So the reason that's so important, I mean, besides the obvious of like, you have been going through something, and I feel it is extra super crucial. And maybe it's because of where it is in my chart, but because we were having those 90-degree angles between Saturn and Uranus, which was really heavy, like really saying, whatever you've been doing in these areas of your life between Aquarius and that 90-degree angle to Taurus. So that 90-degree angle, it's like those two planets coming into that challenging alignment was like, whatever it is that you've been doing, that you're just coasting along at life, because like using my example with massage, I had no reason to stop doing that. I don't have any injuries. I've been doing it since 2007. I love it. I just saw somebody today for his first session, and he's like, I get massage every week. I'm just here visiting my mom. And he got off the table and he was like, what the hell just happened? Like, what was that? Did you train as a physical therapist? Like, where did you study? He was, so inquisitive. Like, there was no reason for me to stop that. But with this 90-degree challenging alignment, it's like, whatever you've been doing, coasting along at life, just, I'm not saying that everybody was coasting along at wherever Aquarius and Taurus is, but something had to have a big stop. It's like a train was moving. The force that it would take to stop a train from moving, or maybe even we could say an earthquake or a tsunami or some big force. That's what those 90-degree angles between Saturn and Uranus were, to like really get us to full stop whatever it is that we are doing and really evaluate, is this really what I want to be doing? Is this going to be taking me into the future? Is this expanding my consciousness, reaching more people, evolving me into my highest self? These are all Aquarian concerns. So if it wasn't, and even if it was, I feel like even if it was, there was still some drastic change that had to happen to really refine you in those areas of your life. Okay, so now this week, there is so much juicy things I had posted in our Telegram group. This is just private, only for the Telegram group, and it'll be available just overnight to watch, and then it's going to go on to the central channel where everybody who's signed up there gets, forever access to everything. But what I was mentioning, when the sun and moon finally made their 90-degree angle, I love 90-degree angles because they really cause us to have to take action. It doesn't allow us, like a trine, that's a 120-degree angle. A trine, which would be, that would be a gibbous, just right before we get to the gibbous moon, that egg-shaped moon, that just to give you an idea of what a 120 feels like. It's juicy and fun and it feels good. It doesn't make us change anything though. It's like you can rest, you can enjoy, you can, and sometimes when it's easy like that or harmonious, we're not encouraged to explore possibilities. The 90-degree angle focuses us. I think I was trying to say forces us to focus on how we can be dynamic and how we can explore more of the possibilities. So basically it's like problem solving 101. When there's that 90-degree angle gives us a problem. So what I was saying in our group, when the moon went into that, I think it was 24 degrees of Scorpio, and the sun was at 24 degrees of Aquarius. So they made their 90-degree challenge. I was like, yes, here we go. 7 more days. First of all, 7 more days to the moon till the moon is new. This new moon is going to be, I just love Pisces new moon. And we have that coming up on the 20th. So at the time, it was 7 more days. And this is just a really good time to like clean out everything. I mean, I opened up the stove and like scraped. I was cleaning everything today because really getting rid of all this, just the built up gunk of having Saturn in Aquarius. There's this weight that we have been under. And I'm not saying, I do want to say it because I feel like it kind of is like as soon as Saturn moves out of a sign, that place in your life has like, okay, you know, that little rain cloud that would follow Charlie Brown or whoever it was. I don't know if it's Charlie Brown or like somebody in that show, the little Linus, maybe. I don't know how that just popped in my head. Well, now that like moves away, and then suddenly you're like, it's like all this new fresh energy in the sign or in the place in your life where Saturn has moved out of. And it might not be like so magical like that. You might not be like, oh my God, like all of a sudden that rain cloud above my head is completely gone. It might not be like that. But I think if you do your work this week, it totally can be like that. So what is your work this week? What is it that you need to get done? And don't worry, because it's not really a week. I'm using that time frame just because of the quarter moon, and that we will be in a new moon phase on February 20th. That's why I'm saying you have a week. You really have about 20, and we get 27, that's another week, like 2 more weeks, because 20, okay, I don't know, but it's March 7th, however many weeks that is. I think it's more like we should say days, because March 7th is when Saturn will officially move into Pisces. So let's say between now and March 7th is a really good time to lift up your bed and sweep and get on your hands and knees and clean the floor. Saturn loves that stuff. Clean the baseboards, open up your stove and clean out whatever debris has fallen. Lift up, like that kind, like you're moving out. And I do that in my kitchen every Tuesday anyway, because I work and make chocolate in the kitchen. So I'm constantly moving the fridge away from the wall and cleaning. I always do that every Tuesday. Mars Day, it's a very stimulating and athletic event for me. But you can do that, whatever area of your house seems most resonant for Aquarius and for whatever, like you can, like I said, the kitchen. Okay. I work in the kitchen, and that is my 10th house. My 10th house, my career contribution to the world. So I'm always in the kitchen, and that's where I'm constantly doing deep cleaning. And of course, today is Tuesday, and it's no different. But also, if you can pull things away from the walls in your house and like get back there and clean stuff out, like physically use your body. That is Saturn's principle, is like put in the elbow grease. And while you're doing that, you may have new, fresh ideas about completions that you can do. And you may know right now what completions, like I still didn't finish my paper that I wanted to get to you guys I wanted at the beginning of the Venus cycle, which was January 7th of 2022. I still didn't finish that. And it's been on my list, like every new moon. I'm like, oh yeah, do this like this, I haven't done it. So those type of completions also, and it's most beneficial if it's something that is related to the house Aquarius is in for you, that you're going to be making deliberately, completing things that you started since 2020. Also, like going through and looking at, where was I in 2020, January 2020? What was I doing? What was my um yeah, and I'm thinking about Saturn words that have to do with the structure of your life. So when Saturn moves into Aquarius, it is bringing this like big heavy hand, like we need to get this in order, not just for you, but for your elders, for your ancestors, for the people who have come before you and are no longer in their bodies, and also for your children and for your grandchildren and for your, grandchildren's children. So whatever that big legacy that we have, that is what Saturn is concerned with. What is your legacy? And then in Aquarius, what else is possible in that, in that area, in that, building a legacy. So now, once we get through doing these completion steps, we're going to be ready more so, and it's not like, it's not, I don't know. I mean, it's not like you're going to be, yeah, fuck it. We can be so totally complete that when we step into the Pisces area of our chart, that we are totally done with Aquarius. Like my, I mentioned that it's my 10th house. So, okay, my business areas, the things that I'm doing professionally, my contribution to the world stuff is so completely settled that I can move into the 11th house. That's how the houses work. It's they're progressive. So it's like when you get, I'm going to go back to the 7th house, your relationships are in order. Then in the 8th house, you're able to really hone in on your investments and your investment banking. And then you're able to move into, go and travel the world. And the 9th house has to do with travel and higher education. And then when you got that, and this is really the progress Saturn makes going through these signs, and the progress Saturn makes going through the houses for you. So then, okay, that was the 9th house. And then we get to the 10th house, and it's your career, your contribution to the world. And then from there, it gets into your peers, your groups of friends, your goals, dreams, ambitions. And as this progress is happening, there is becoming more and more structure. There is more consistency. There is more dedication that you've put. You have to do extra work while Saturn is in that place. But then once you do it, you can like move on and it grows itself. It's just like planting a tree. At the beginning of planting a tree, you have to do a lot of work to like, tend to it and baby it. Oh my gosh, those papaya trees, like you really have, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of attention, a lot of your thought process. You're caring about it. Is the soil okay? And how, is it getting enough sun? And once they grow, you don't have to think about it anymore. They're big and you just water it and they're doing their own thing and you can move on to the next thing. So like that, we want to make sure that the Aquarius area of our life is really, really complete, that we have put forth all the effort. And it's not like between now and March 7th that you can do everything that you could have been doing for the last 3 years, but you can really refine, like go through and trim things up and throw things away and put the final touches on whatever it is you have been working on in that area of your life. So when Saturn gets into Pisces, you can fully be ready for what's coming. I have no idea. Let me think. So it was 30 years ago. So you can go back in your mind and see, it's like kind of, I mean, 30 years ago, I was a baby, um, or a 10-year-old, I guess. 30 years ago, I'm 43. So I was 13. So yeah, what was I doing? So anyway, just do that for yourself. What was going on in my life about 28 to 30 years ago. Nah, 30. Um, maybe you can see a trend, but again, we were probably so young, like maybe where you were living or how you were feeling, what process were you, I'm like, what cartoons was I watching when I was 13? I was still looking at Soul Train and um okay, so other than that, looking back at what happened previously when Saturn was in Pisces, and for some of us, we weren't even born yet 30 years ago. So um, you can just be an open slate. And I will tell you right now, here are some of the characteristics. Okay, so we already know Saturn is the principle of I mentioned the skeleton, the form and function of reality, shared reality, because don't be confused, there is other realities that don't have to do with form and structure. So Saturn's reality is about form and structure and how we share time and space. Time, Capricorn, space, Aquarius. How we share time and space. And so it's the with there's something with your hands that you're practically doing. It's a practical, real world um, uh, your legacy. What are you building? I always think about this, like when I meet somebody who I think I might want to date, I never am like, let's just date. I'm like, what can we build together? And that I have a strong Saturn principle just in general. So that it's like, what am I building? That's what Saturn wants to know. In your chart, wherever Saturn is on your chart, that's what you're building. That's what your instructions are. This is what I'm building. So, another thing I'll mention just to wrap that in is that wherever Saturn is on your chart is also, okay, as this transit has been going on through Aquarius, we are refining the Aquarian areas of our life, but those gifts of the work that we do, the practicality, how real we get, and how much we build, that also influences the placement of your natal Saturn. It's like that placement of your natal Saturn is getting the evolution, the gifts. It's, you're growing your own inner Saturn principle as Saturn is moving through the house and the sign and the other planets that it's touching. All right, so now we've got that Saturn idea. And for everybody here, I'm sure you already really know that talk about Saturn a lot. Now, Pisces is the element of water, and it's water in the form of mist. It's the most mystical, most psychic, most energetically attuned of all the signs because it's the last. And because it's the last, it has one foot in both worlds, meaning the end of winter, the death phase. That's something that's so like, oh, I love it so much about the Pisces new moon is that it really is the end of the whole lunation cycle. And it's the beginning of the next whole thing. It's like, it's the real end. The real end, it's also carries an imprint of the real beginning, which is why that the end of Pisces season is whenever we get into the new year. So we have to go through Pisces first, which is sort of like in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, everything that I've studied about death, there is this place maybe it's called the Bardo to some. In Dante's Inferno, which I have over here on my bookshelf, I won't pull it out for you, but in Dante's Inferno, the death is gates that we go through. And Pisces is like that. Pisces as an archetype really is like this liminal space between worlds. So you may be talking to a Pisces and they're like, kind of like daydream off for a moment, but be totally present all at the same time. So when Saturn goes into Pisces, now we're talking. This is going to be so interesting and so fun because Saturn is the real world reality. Saturn is, what am I building? How am I building legacy? How am I supporting myself and the next 7 generations and the previous 7 generations? That's Saturn. Well, Pisces is like this numinous like that. Basically, it's like being in a dream. Most people aren't able to really, oh, I just saw this. Okay, so Saturn, it's like a lucid dream when Saturn comes into Pisces, because basically what happens in a lucid dream is that we're able to remember ourselves. This is what the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Egyptian Book of the Dead all tell us about. How can I retain consciousness while I go through this liminal space of death and rebirth? So Saturn moving into Pisces is like, I am able to remember myself and hold myself together. What my dad used to always tell me, when you walk in a room, it's like you're just throwing particles of rainbows and, like light and water. What he used to say, you're spilling all over everybody because I needed to contain myself more or whatever. But because I am so super Pisces, when I walk in a room, everybody is going to feel that big Piscean energy. And so I don't care about containing that one little bit. But basically, Saturn coming into Pisces is like that. Like, hey, put a lid on it, or like contain your rainbow water. Keep it all in. You're like getting everybody wet. You're splashing everywhere. So somehow, as Saturn moves into Pisces, there will be this like containment of that mystical, ethereal water. And there's so many things I could say about this, like putting structure and form to the unboundary, putting structure and form to timelessness. So that's what we're going to be doing with Saturn and Pisces, is like working toward what is that new modality that you're doing? Like put it into a form. What is that new product that you've been working on? That new thing you're creating, or that new spiritual identity that you're forming. Saturn going into Pisces puts it into some sort of a structure. But don't forget that it's not easy. Like just the way Saturn has been in Aquarius, it does bring a sense of like burden and weight, a heaviness, a roadblock in a lot of ways. So I was so excited, but now I'm like, oh yeah, it is still Saturn. It still makes you work for it. It's that saying, there is no free lunch. It's like you still have to work for it. So now Saturn is going into my 11th house, and I was like, oh good, my area of like friends. And I've been wanting to like get into maybe I'll go take a Spanish class, meet more people, or maybe I'm gonna go do pottery so I could meet more people. But now I'm like, oh yeah, Saturn is going into Pisces, which is still gonna be like, you're blocked, to make you work really hard. Is this really what you want? What are you willing to do to get it? That's what Saturn wants to know. Mm-hmm. So all right, well, I'm going to go ahead and end the video now. And since this is just for our Telegram group, you guys let me know. I don't know why I didn't see any anything in the chat. The chat box was totally empty for me. Leave me some questions or comments. I don't know if you guys noticed, but my dogs are like going crazy. So I'm going to go take them out for a walk. And if there are any questions you guys have, bring them to Telegram. And I am very happy to jump back on here tomorrow and we can talk some more about the upcoming Saturn in Pisces. So thank you so much. And I will see you all again very soon.